5 years gone since Meghan Markle stormed out of those palace gates, claiming freedom was her new crown. Freedom, please? We all thought she'd use that stage, that platform, that golden megaphone to shout her truth, shake the world, and rewrite her own legacy. But instead of blazing trails like the humanitarian queen she once swore she'd emulate you, as I said, Diana McGann dimmed the lights. No fiery speeches, no global crusades, not even a bold clapback, just silence and a kitchen apron, apparently. Now hold up, let's rewind. Remember her royal debut? Headlines screamed comparisons to Diana. Diana Reborn, Diana 2.0. That was the spin. From wardrobe to jewels to carefully staged charity photos. Every move screamed Princess of Hearts, the sequel. But time has a funny way of ripping off masks. Meghan wasn't following Diana's paths. She was play acting in it. And trust me, the firm wasn't fooled. Behind those velvet drapes, lines were being drawn. Prince William, future king and Diana's fiercely loyal son, shut it down hard. Meghan, forbidden from touching Diana's jewels. Not the necklaces, not the rings, and absolutely not the legendary Cartier watch. Why? Because William saw through it. In his eyes, Meghan hadn't earned the right. She wasn't royal in deed, and she wasn't royal in spirit. And here's the kicker. The press ate it up for years, thinking Meghan was dripping in Diana's legacy, fooled every single time. That cherished timepiece, the one painted as sentimental, emotional, a respectful nod to Diana's past. Yeah, except it was fake, a knockoff. And for many inside the palace, that cheap imitation spoke louder than words. Once the truth cracked open, Prince William didn't hesitate. Editors were told to clean it up. Quiet retractions slipped into magazines, corrections printed in fine print. Meghan hadn't worn Diana's treasured gift sheet, only staged the illusion of it. And in a family that worships legacy, illusions don't cut it. Fallout was instant. Meghan was furious. Sources claim she threw down her usual cards accusations of racism, hostile press, and her misunderstood outsider speech. But William, he didn't flinch. He'd seen through her from day one. While Harry spiraled headfirst into chaos, William stood firm, guarding his mother's memory with the kind of iron spine the royals almost never show in public. And make no mistake, this wasn't about a watch. It was about what it symbolized. Diana's legacy wasn't in glittering jewelry. It was in compassion, courage, and quiet resilience. Meghan had every chance to carry that torch, but instead, she chose theatrics. Performance over purpose, rather. Then pushing Diana's mission forward, she doubled down on image mirroring her style, curating her look, and letting the tabloids fuel false connections. And that's the unsettling part. Because if imitation is truly the sincerest form of flattery, then Meghan's tribute feels less like honor and more like hollow cosplay. Meghan's so-called flattery wasn't flattery at all. It was hollow, manufactured, and if you ask Prince William, pure exploitation. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine wore Diana's heirlooms not out of entitlement, but out of trust, because she'd proven herself. Catherine earned that honor, not with screaming headlines, but with loyalty and duty. Meghan, she never did. And so here we are, a fake watch, a real rejection, and a royal family once again trapped in a narrative TiVo war. Only this time, the lines couldn't be clearer. Meghan may have played the cameras, but William wasn't buying. Not with plastic, not with spin, not with staged posies, and certainly not with a borrowed title wrapped around a borrowed identity. The Cartier watch was never just a shiny timepiece. It was a symbol, one of the last treasures of Diana's private life, a gift from her father before she became the most photographed woman on earth. Watching it downgraded into a costume prop. For those who lived Diana's loss, it was a slap. Across the face, For William, this wasn't about fashion. It was about memory, respect. Meghan crossing that line made it personal, and it didn't stop with jewelry. Meghan's Diana fixation bled into hairstyles, wardrobe, even the way she entered engagements. Royal watchers noticed. Palace insiders whispered. The mimicry wasn't subtle anymore. Meghan didn't want to echo Diana's she wanted to be Diana. And that's when the tribute tipped into something darker, something unsettling. Meanwhile, Catherine. She rose quietly, with steady dignity. No theatrics, no cosplay, just the real thing. No Instagram speeches. No performative captions, Princess Catherine just did the work. Charities, hospital visits, family duties, and the contrast became impossible to ignore. While Meghan's appearances came with red carpets, podcast microphones, and conveniently candid moments, Catherine stayed grounded, steady, real. That difference, more than anything, earned Catherine the right to carry Diana's legacy forward. For her, the jewelry wasn't some shiny prize, was a responsibility, and Meghan, she simply didn't qualify. Then came the infamous Netflix pottery scene. On the surface, harmless, but in royal circles, it raised brows. Meghan's sleeves rolled up, molding clay like she was auditioning for a daytime slot while flashing what she implied was Diana's iconic gold watch. Clever camera work kept the watch in view, subtle but deliberate. No one said it aloud. They didn't need to. The imagery spoke volumes. Headlines followed fast. Meghan honors Diana. But palace insiders quickly caught the slip. The watch. Not real. And suddenly the question spread, how many times had she pulled this trick? How many staged nods to Diana were built on imitations? Whatever trust remained snapped. William's patience, gone. And Harry, true to form, stayed silent exactly when his voice mattered most. The correction was buried, tucked in the fine print, while the damage lingered loud. One line buried in the corner of a follow-up article, but it was enough. The signal was clear. Not just to Meghan, but to the press, the public, anyone paying attention. Prince William wasn't about to let his mother's legacy be hijacked as a marketing gimmick. Not on his watch. And Meghan? She didn't correct a thing. She never does. That's the game drop, the image. Let the speculation spin, and when the truth surfaces, act like it never happened. Her silence is an accidentalite strategy. In that vacuum, headlines write themselves. But here's the flaw. It only works if no one checks, no one pushes back, no one calls it out. Meghan's problem is that William is calling it out loudly, firmly, and without hesitation. And when a future king speaks, even in whispers, the echo shakes the room. What once seemed like a shallow squabble over jewelry had grown into something heavier. This was now about narrative, about identity, about who gets to carry the banner of one of history's most beloved women. And Meghan is discovering fast that borrowed legacy doesn't come with lifetime rights, especially when the gatekeeper is Diana's own son, because the jewelry, that was just the surface. What it truly revealed was a clash in meaning. To Meghan, legacy was aesthetical look to wear, opposed to strike, a headline to milk. But for William, legacy was sacred. And that difference changes everything. When you treat something sacred like a costume, there are consequences. Insiders say Prince William always kept Diana's jewelry under lock and key, not out of greed, but protection. He understood the emotional weight each piece carried. So when Harry and Meghan tried to split Diana's collection after the wedding, it wasn't some sweet family bonding. It was a negotiation, and William had the final word. Those heartwarming stories about Harry gifting Diana's ring too. William so Kate could wear it. Romantic fluff, but mostly fiction. As the elder son, William always had the upper hand, and Meghan, whether she liked it or not, is never going to play dress up with his mother's memory. What really turned up the heat was Meghan's reaction to the jewelry ban. She reportedly didn't take it quietly. Furious. Sources say she pushed back, even tossing around words like racism to frame the fight. But William didn't blink. He saw the tactic, called it for what it was, and refused to let emotional manipulation twist the truth. Not this time, and still Meghan kept the charade alive. At public outings, she wore imitation pieces watches, earrings, rings zerily, similar to Diana's favorites. Subtle enough to spark speculation, staged enough to fuel headlines. And it worked, at least for a while, and it worked for a while. The media, starving for royal tension and dripping symbolism, devoured it without bothering to fact-check. Until Prince William made sure they did. That tiny correction buried in a magazine? It wasn't small at all, it was a scalpel strike. Sharp, deliberate, and perfectly intentional. William was putting his foot down. A warning shot, not just at Meghan, but at the entire world. Diana's memory wasn't a stage prop. Try to fake your way into it, okay? And you'd be exposed. And honestly, there's a sadness to it all. Meghan had every chance to carve out something real with her platform: humanitarian causes, education, women's rights. The world was hers to shape. But instead of building her own legacy, she tried to inherit one that was never hers to begin with. Instead of earning respect, she tried to borrow it. That's why she'll never be Diana, because Diana's greatness was never about outfits, jewels, or glossy photo ops. It was about heart. Meghan had the spotlight, but she chose the mirror. And William, he's no saint, no royal is. This fight, he stood tall for something that actually mattered. He defended his mother's legacy, not with flashy interviews or tear-filled documentaries, but with quiet, unshakable authority. He knew the line between tribute and theft. And make no mistake, this was theft. Not of diamonds, but of sentiment, memory, and meaning. And William shut it down cold. As for Harry, his silence is its own heartbreak. Once the fiercest defender of Diana's legacy, he now lingers in the background while it's twisted for clout. Love, confusion, blind, loyalty, whatever the reason. He's become a side character in his own family's story. Meanwhile, Meghan keeps up the performance, one staged watch, one fake accessory at a time, but the illusion, it's cracking. The audience is waking up. And the man guarding the legacy, he isn't flinching, because in the end, the real jewels weren't gold, rings, or watches. The true treasures were truth, dignity, and loyalty. And those Meghan never had. William did. Which is exactly why she was never allowed to wear them.